Welcome to Beyond the Frame, a show by the SOCA Global Outreach Office, sharing the new, the now, and the necessary in a digest of thought-provoking news and tidbits from the global art world, with a particular focus on marginalized voices. We bring you news and stories centered around equity, inclusivity, and sustainability, exploring the places where art is urgent, political, and current, while reflecting on the complexities of today's world. I am your host, Jillian Rhodes. Let's start with the news, which today is entirely all about AI, its unprecedented growth in the past few months, and what that means for the fine arts world. There's a lot of popular angst around AI and what it will do to the industry. The ease of creating multiple images as well as copyright issues are huge pain points for many artists who worry about the integrity of the industry, their work, and their jobs. Many feel that their style will be copied, that the unique quality of art will go away, and in short, the industry will collapse, fed to the machine of Midjourney and Dolly churning out factory images. Despite this apocalyptic view, the fine and visual arts industry has been slowly finding its own way around the issue, creeping tentatively through the weeds to chart a new path. An article in the art newspaper presents a cynically realistic point of view that AI will simply become the new normal, with commercial galleries and even art fairs starting to curate AI-generated art exhibitions and provide NFTs as part of sales. It does, however, mention the dangers of monoculture and the oversaturation of the market. But I think this diminishes the consumer's intelligence and choice. For example, in the beginning, I was awed and delighted by Midjourney's images, but now I feel less excited by the plethora of images clearly made in that specific AI style. Still, one of the biggest issues is the question of copyright, and the U.S. Copyright Office recently launched a new initiative to tackle this and has included new registration guidance in an effort to better understand how to deal with the use of copyrighted images in AI technology and training. I'm sure it's just the first initiative of many. Some art fairs are leaning into the digital art boom, such as Art Dubai, but they have found their own way to approach it after going full-on last year, just before the crypto crash. The fair featured an expanded digital section this year. However, it is not just NFTs and purely digital works, but rather takes the phygital approach, a blend of physical and digital elements. It incorporates a fair amount of generative art along with the VR, AR, and other new ways of interacting with the work. This multidisciplinary approach, which leaves plenty of room for the artist alongside and in front of the AI, was well received and led to a few high-profile sales. This phygital approach is definitely working for at least one other artist, generative artist Tyler Hobbs. One of the few artists selling generative AI works as NFTs struggled to survive the market crash. Hobbs has managed to go beyond the popular profile projects and find his way into the fine art market. One of his pieces was recently sold at Christie's for close to £300,000. His first solo exhibition in the UK at Unit London exemplifies the phygital approach. Real paintings on real canvas, but done by a programmed robot to produce geometric shapes, and then touched up and added to by the artist. This is absolutely the way forward, I believe. The ongoing exploration of the machine as a tool rather than mindless generation. The entire issue of prompt craft and prompt engineering also speaks to this. Of course, while AI has entered the mainstream and improves in leaps and bounds every day, it still sometimes leads to strange outcomes. An amusing article in ArtNet details how ChatGPT responded to a request about art theory and a wild rabbit hole of an answer that involved inventing an article by a real art critic, and then inventing a book when the article was proved to be made up, and so on and so forth. It also provided a list of completely made-up references around medieval art and AI, and can do so for any other topic mentioned. This kind of invention and adjustment of reality is exactly why ChatGPT and other tools can't be relied on, only used as a brainstorming partner. And if ChatGPT doesn't know art theory, it probably can't bring new artistic works and styles to the table either. AI is an evolving field, and what is shared today might be irrelevant tomorrow. It's good to remain skeptical, but not completely negative. Filmmaker Hito Steriol makes a good point during an interview with ArtNet that tech conglomerates often release existing technology as a way of onboarding people to their products and creating dependency. I personally don't see AI as the end of art, but I do think critical thinking is more necessary than ever before. Well, that is a lot of existentialism to wade through, so let's get down to something a bit more real for our trend section: research-based art. 2 articles recently in the magazine Art in America covered this idea of research-based art, which is often based on academic theories and methodologies, and demands that art pieces are thoroughly and rigorously researched. As one article notes, this almost places the artist as investigative journalist, exposing so-called secrets. For example, an artist who covers public CCTV cameras with rhinestones in order to attract attention to surveillance. Or Lawrence Abu Hamdan's project Air Pressure, which revealed the presence of military aircraft in other airspaces. Many artists draw on archival footage, placing the work in new context to question it. While these projects, and particularly those that expose unethical or unseen practices around us, are important and interesting, one article notes that the constant expectation and exhibition of research art can also be tiring and alienating for a certain audience. It can easily get boring, didactic, and navel-gazing. The article also points out the dangers of researching truth and dominant narratives. However, despite this, when done well, research-based work can ask deep and necessary questions without overloading the audience with endless information. Let's move on to the featured artist section. This episode is focused on multimedia Kenyan artist Wangechi Mutu. I found her work through an article in Art News and was interested in the sheer variety of the work that she was presenting. The article describes one piece as part painting, part sculpture, and part installation. And who can resist this kind of genre-bending work? I've talked in this show before about how artists pushing the boundaries of medium are set to flourish, and Wangechi Mutu is well integrated into that scene. Mutu was born in Nairobi, Kenya, and is based between Nairobi and New York, where she has made a strong name for herself since the turn of the century. She works with themes of race, gender, and colonialism, reflecting her background and identity. She also often works with the female image and issues of consumerism. The word grotesque is often used to describe her artworks, as she uses themes and imagery of disease and other body horror to make her point. Despite this, her work is not ugly or grotesque at all. The connection with the otherworldly, the spirit-like, and the sci-fi, all words used to describe Mutu's art, transforms the potential ugliness into something totally different. I personally find it incredibly interesting and provocative. The article where I found Mutu was about a new survey of her work at the new museum in New York called Intertwined. The exhibition is a testament to the sheer diversity of work and mediums she produces, and includes pieces ranging from those created during her university days to the most recent created last year, showing the range of her interests and artistic endeavors. It is hard not to be impressed by her creativity. Mutu's work lands firmly in the category of Afrofuturism. And just to note, while I absolutely understand the need to imagine futures centered around African people, I would hope that one day this will simply be included in futurism. I find sci-fi and futuristic imagery overly entrenched in white and Western cultural ideas, and would love to see a futurism which is far more diverse and rooted in a variety of cultural values. I do recommend you check out Mutu's work, but let's move on to the final segment, the tidbits. The first comes from the art newspaper, which is a deeply scathing review on the 50th anniversary celebration exhibition at the National Picasso Museum in Paris. The author's main complaint is the choice of artistic direction of display by British fashion designer Paul Smith, who admittedly has little knowledge of Picasso and has added extensive extras alongside the work. Other reviews are less offended by Smith's interventions. Rather, the mission of the exhibition to make Picasso relevant by placing his work in dialogue with other artists, particularly women and African, is questioned. It's a complicated discussion to be sure, but we won't go into it now. Speaking of museums struggling to deal with the discriminatory underpinnings and practices of the art world, earlier this year, the Denver Art Museum announced that they were removing the name of a former trustee from one of its galleries after discovering that she was linked to a well-known purveyor of looted antiquities. The trustee in question has since passed, but it has been shown that she was instrumental in creating false scholarly documents and reviews to prove false provenance of stolen items. There may have been others involved. The investigation is still ongoing. Finally, in an article that seems to be drawn directly from a movie script, ArtNet reports that earlier this year, a Wall Street billionaire shot himself in his office, with considerable repercussions and effects in the art world. Museum trustee, art collector, and philanthropist Thomas Lee's art collection alone is enough to raise many questions. Some of the collection, which include works from artists such as Jackson Pollock and Francis Bacon, is promised to museums already, but the fate of others is less clear. Whatever happens, certainly the art market will feel the effects of Lee's passing for years to come. But that is all that we have time for today. So thanks for watching Beyond the Frame, a production of the SOCA Global Outreach Office.